Hello, I'm James Whale, and this is Talk About Part 1, a taste of greater... Hello and welcome to Talk About, the programme where we in the studio don't know what on earth we're going to be talking about for the next hour because that's decided by you. Ring us now, anything you want us to talk about on 0345 779911. I'll get my teeth back in. With your views on what you think should be discussed today. With me is an award-winning journalist from Glasgow who was named Feature Writer of the Year for her articles in the Herald. Welcome, Anvar Khan.
Hiya.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you, James?
Good. I'm very well too. Now,
good stuff.
Youth crime, first of all. That seems to be in many of the papers today. What are we going to do to children 9, 10 years old to convince them that becoming criminals is not a good idea?
I don't know whether one can convince children that being a criminal is not a good idea, but what strikes everybody is that the fact that any child has a great sense of right and wrong. I mean, children know what is a good thing to do and what is a bad thing to do. And we're basically talking about that
What
sensibility.
sort of age do you think? I mean, it says 10, but I mean, why at 9 are you not responsible and then at 10 you are? You're
talking about the learning process. A 3-year-old will know what she or he should not be doing according to what the parent says. The same applies to a 10-year-old. Age does not equal, age does not equal a sense of morality.
OK, so what do you think about juvenile crime? Ring us and tell us. Now, Miss UK and Beijing, the Women's Conference, both happening today. It's a bit of a toss-up which to go to. Which would you rather go to?
I think I'd be tempted, actually, to go for Miss UK, because I don't want to come across as somebody who's not interested in feminism. I think it's churlish to do so if you are a female and are relatively successful. But the thing about Beijing is that it's terribly, terribly worthy. And I would rather have the fun and the pizzazz and the cheapness, if you like, going to see Miss UK.
But do you think it actually undermines the value of women in society? That was a bit worthy, that question.
Yes, James, I think
I can't believe I said that, really.
I mean... I personally, I can't speak personally because I wouldn't be in this world anyway, but if a woman wants to partake and show herself off that way, she's perfectly entitled to do so, because that's what feminism is, isn't it? You decide what kind of life and what kind of woman you are going to be.
Okay.
But I think you're making a complete exhibition of yourself.
I have to say, of course, Mr. UK is on today as well. And also, finally, bald-headed men achieve less, apparently, a psychologist says in a report that came out this week. What do you think?
I don't want to offend you, James, but I
think...
You
won't.
Bald men, what can I say? I've never met a bald man I actually liked. I find they overcompensate for not having any hair, or also become very arrogant and think, well, just because I don't have any hair doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. And what that report says, there is something wrong with men who have bald hair, because, they're going to suffer from low self-esteem and not get anywhere, which I think is rather patronising.
I think so too. I mean, I'll probably change your mind, or maybe I won't by the end of the programme today. Bald men, ring in, tell us. Or women who, do you like bald men or not? Give us a call. What do you think? But first of all, I think we're going to start with postnatal depression. Front page of the Daily Express today. Let me show you the picture. A mother who killed her 11-day-old baby by smashing his head into a staircase was shown mercy by a judge yesterday because she apparently was suffering from postnatal depression. What do you think? Call us 0345 779911. Our first call is Christine from Glasgow. And Christine, you're on the air.
Hello there, James.
Hi. What's your point?
Well, I've got 2 children, and they're 2 and they're 4. And when they were first born, I suffered from postnatal depression. And the way that it manifested itself in myself was I couldn't really cope. I was working full-time. I had no family support. I was separated from my husband. It got to a point about 6, 7, 8 months down the line where the stress levels had really built up. I wasn't really coping, and the worst thing that happened was that I struck my son, who at that time was about, he was only about 2.
Could you tell us what the sort of mental processes that were going through your mind were? I mean, you obviously knew, because you're talking to us about it now, that it was wrong.
I can't really describe how I was feeling or what processes were going through my mind.
Did you go to the doctor?
My mind was like, it was like a blackness. that I wasn't seeing things clearly.
Sorry, Christine, to interrupt. I mean, you struck your son, but surely striking your son, I mean, are you saying that you shouldn't use any violence against him at all?
No. What I'm saying is that it's wrong. There's some people in this world that say, well, if you're going to discipline your children, it's okay to smack them. I think that's fair enough if you're being responsible about it and you're not using it as a way to release your own tension.
How do we know when you're suffering from postnatal depression or when people are just violent?
I'm not sure I can make that distinction. For myself, it was a violent act that was brought on by my depression. But what I was wanting to really say about it was that I took responsibility. I realised that what I had done was completely unjustifiable. I'm not saying that I was necessarily to blame as such, but the first thing that I did is I had went to the hospital and it was a local casualty, so look, I have done this. They were unable to help.
Do you think this case should have gone to court, or do you think it should have been dealt with maybe...
I went to the police. I volunteered myself. The same night I went to the police. I said, look, I'm really sorry. This is what I've done to my son. They decided not to press charges and they referred me to the social services.
How badly did you hurt your son?
It wasn't like broken bones. I mean, I threw a plate of dinner at his face. It sounds really awful. And he was really frightened and he was upset. This is his mother that had done this to him.
How old was he at the time?
About two and a half. It resulted in that I went to the social services and I explained all this.
Sorry to interrupt there, Christine. What's interesting about what you're saying is the fact that you actually corrected yourself. You realised there was something up, that you were depressed, and you went and did something about it. In this instance, we're talking about somebody who let their depression get to the extreme.
This is the point I'm trying to make.
Exactly.
Because I was very fortunate there were services available to help me and to help the kids. I asked that the kids were taken into a foster carer who would give them the support that they needed while I was sorting myself out. It was the best thing I could ever do.
Christine, thank you very much indeed for your call. Let's talk to Tricia, who is in Hollingham, I think, in East Molesey. Tricia, welcome to the programme. What's your point?
Hi, first of all, my name is Tricia Hollingham and I live
is it really? Right, fine, there we are. Tricia Hollingham from East Molesey.
That's right, yes. Basically, I was horrified at the story, I think like any other mother would be. But I just wonder, how did she get to the point where she completely lost control and actually injured her baby? I'm thinking, you know, did she know where to get help and was help made available to her? Personally speaking, when I had my little boy, I felt I got to the point a couple of times where I thought I was going to snap, but I was almost afraid to go to my health visitor in case he was taken away from me.
Did the doctor talk to you before you had your baby about the possibility of postnatal depression or anything else?
No, not at all. It was almost viewed as a stigma, you know, especially between the other girls that I knew in my group. It wasn't really discussed. I wasn't told you may feel bad, you may feel like there are moments when you might crack or you might feel like hitting your child, and if so, you come to this person. I was always very afraid, almost like I'd failed if I admitted to someone.
The interesting thing, Tricia, is, and I was just looking to our next caller, Peter, who wants to talk about the same subject. The interesting thing is, where does postnatal depression stop? And where does chastisement begin? A lot of people, I'm looking at some of the calls to come as well, want to talk about child crime, and I'm sure quite a lot of people feel that we're not strict enough with our children, i.e. perhaps we don't belt them enough. So I wonder where this joins. Perhaps it doesn't.
No, I don't know. I think, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with smacking your child. Obviously not, you know, to injure them, but I think sometimes you need to reinforce a point that you're making. But I just feel that I just wonder how much help this lady actually had, and you know, how on earth did she ever get to the point where she killed her baby? Good
point, Tricia. Thank you very much indeed. Let's indeed talk to Peter, who doesn't live in O'Sullivan. He lives in Wigan. He is Peter O'Sullivan. Hello, Peter.
Hello, James.
And your point, please.
I just think it's scandalous that the lady yesterday got away with it, basically. I can't see how she can justify smashing a baby's head into a staircase. My girlfriend suffered from postnatal depression for 3 months. We had a screaming baby, and we were both at our wits' end at times. But how they can justify smashing a baby's head in, and she only gets 2 years probation.
Do you think when women start using their hormones as an excuse, do you think we've perhaps gone over the other way? We're being far too accommodating. A woman says,
exactly,
oh, you know, it's the wrong time of the month, or I've got depression, I can't help what I'm doing.
Yeah, blaming premenstrual tension on shoplifting and stuff like that, you know, where
Can I say, sorry to interrupt you, there is actually a point where a condition, an emotional hormonal condition, will become clinical, and at that, I'm not quite sure when that is established, but surely that must have some bearing on these cases.
Should we talk more openly about it? The fact is, Peter and Anvar, we don't actually like to talk about menstruation very much, do we? We don't like to talk about depression very much, and these things get tucked away.
Sorry, I disagree with you, James. I actually think the opposite. I think we now live in a society where everyone is anxious to talk, and this programme is obviously an example. And stress counselling is available and will be more widely available. People know that the best thing to do is communicate how they're feeling. I actually think we're much more free that way.
But do you think a woman who kills her child because she says she's suffering and is suffering from depression should be allowed to walk away
because I agree with the women that came on earlier. They felt guilty because they disciplined their kids. You should not let it get to that stage. It's your own responsibility. How you're feeling is your own responsibility. If you know there's something up, do something about it.
OK, Peter, thank you very much indeed. If you want to join us, then...
One more thing, James?
Yes, Peter.
Do you want to just sit down and roll a big spliff and get out?
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. And enough of that. 0345 779911 is the number to call and tell us what you want to talk about. Let's talk to Steve in Manchester. Hello, Steve.
Hi, James. Can you hear me?
Yes, Steve.
I think, going to the juvenile crime part, I think that parents should be made more responsible for the actions of their children. The court should be given more power to impose fines and compensation orders against the parents of the juveniles if they think it's appropriate.
There was a story locally here to Birmingham I saw this morning on the news where parents on a particular estate, I've forgotten which one it was, have been written to and told to keep their children in after a certain time at night if they're young. And it does seem, doesn't it, generally, wherever you go, that kids as young as 5 can be playing out on the street, particularly on light summer nights, until maybe 10 o'clock. What do the people who are responsible for these children think they're doing?
Yes, I mean, we hear so much about crime against children as well. When you see kids running about the streets at 11 o'clock at night and they're only about 7 or 8 years old, I mean, it does reflect on the parents.
How would you actually encourage people to take more responsibility, Steve? You think if your child is naughty, I mean, if you bring 2 children up, both the same way, one can be completely off the rails and the other can be a little angel, how would you then decide that it was the parents' fault?
Unfortunately, a lot of parents these days just bury their head in the sand and send the kids out to play, like you've just been saying. But it's not just casual crimes such as vandalism and joyriding. There's organised crimes now where parents actively encourage the children to do such things as shoplifting and burglary simply because the punishment against juveniles is just wholly inadequate.
Well, they need
talking about
chastising.
Subculture.
Thank you, Steve. Let's talk to Jacqueline, because Jacqueline is in Langford, and she has another view, don't you, Jacqueline?
I do. I believe there is not enough discipline in this day and age, and I don't mean just in punishment. Years ago, discipline came from going to school, making sure you were dressed properly, making sure that you were held responsible for yourself as well as others around you. Now, there's none of this.
Why do you think that is? Why are parents not keen on telling their children how to behave, how to...
They haven't got time.
They haven't got time?
They haven't got time. You see it all the time. I mean, when we brought our children up, we sent them to school, we dressed them properly. They came home from school, they weren't latchkey
I've had that problem today as well, yes. Latchkey, yeah.
And it is a problem, and we've got to wake up to it.
You're not necessarily talking, Jacqueline, about hitting children.
No, I'm not. I mean, there comes a time, I think, where a good wallop doesn't hurt.
But I think a lot of people actually think discipline is violence. They think that the only way you discipline a child is to be violent.
No, it's not.
Exactly.
Discipline also means to discipline a child within itself, to have respect for a child's self, to appreciate other people around him, to have consideration for other people around that child. If a child is brought up with no discipline whatsoever for other people, then they're going to grow up to be unruly youths.
Do you think, Anvar, perhaps you'd like to tell us, do you think that maybe we are just too lazy? Maybe we've got to the stage now where we just want an easy life?
Yes, we are.
Well, that's fair, but I don't agree that it's the fact that parents have no time to discipline their children. It's not a question of time, it's a question of learned behaviour, I would say. If you have parents who respect what is around them, the people they deal with, have a decent amount of self-esteem, I think that is what children learn. I mean, you know, you can't say, oh, my child committed a crime, I'm sorry, I didn't have the time to speak to them about it.
So how do you tell a child living
excuse.
in really poor circumstances, maybe in a huge tower block with lots of other families crammed in, very little to stimulate their minds, how do you actually get through to somebody like that? I mean, nothing seems to be done.
Yeah, but then you're obviously down the avenue of saying, well, look at a child's social surroundings. You have to blame those social surroundings for the child's behaviour.
Whatever the social surroundings, you can still know the difference between right and wrong.
Exactly.
What about schools? I mean, we go to school now. It's Mary, John, Fred. Why? What happened to the good old Mr., Miss? I mean, that also comes from respect and discipline.
I don't agree with that, actually. I have to tell you that I think that some of the particularly when I was at school or when my children were at school, the way teachers still treat children, I think, doesn't do any good for discipline at all. I mean, calling somebody by their surname, talking to them as if they're not all there, it's wrong. Yeah,
but you can't. Why should schools be completely responsible for discipline? I mean, comprehensive schools have huge classes. There's one person in charge of 40 children. Why should that teacher be responsible for imposing discipline? OK,
good point. What's your view at home? Ring us and tell us. 0345 77 99 11.
If you're enraged, upset or challenged by what you've heard so far and want to put your view for a change, ring Talk About now on 0345 77 99 11. That's 0345 77 99 11. For the price of a local call from anywhere in the country. We've got 30 operators waiting to hear from you now. Whatever your point of view on any of today's news stories, ring Talk About now on 0345 77 99 11.
Right, Lewis is in Bristol and Lewis is now on the air with us. Lewis, what's your point?
Good morning, James.
Hi.
I'd like to take a view which I'm sure many viewers may agree with. It's about the shortage of water. Now, this drought, I think, may come to an end very soon because there seems to be some more...
Not yet.
Some more rain. And I've seen the weather forecast, and they said... and it was with Michael Fish, actually. He said...
he's usually right, isn't he, Michael Fish? I find he's usually right, yeah.
Usually. And he said there'd probably be rain in the country, about everywhere in the country. And I think that when the rain does come, the people will start saying how bad it is that there's rain. And
you can bank on it. You can bank on it. Yeah.
And people have said how bad the sun is.
Yeah, we're never happy, Lewis, are we? I'm glad
he's quite right. Nation of mourners.
Yes.
So what weather do people like?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, what's the answer, Lewis? What do you suggest we all do? Tell the nation.
I suggest that we try to find out which we like best, and then don't complain about the one we like best.
Excellent, Lewis. Thank you very much indeed for that very sensible point. Very good. Right, Nick is in Northampton. Nick, hello.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nick.
The point I'd like to make is regarding Miss UK. There's obviously been a lot in the press today about whether or not it should be televised, whether or not we should be having the contest at all. And I think that my retort to people who say we shouldn't have the contest is, for goodness sake, wake up to the 90s, where it seemed to be regressing back into the Victorian era. At the end of the day, you're looking at a contest which is a little bit of harmless fun.
Why are we so concerned about people, more so about women than men, it has to be said, but why are we so concerned that if people have nice bodies, men or women, and they want to make money out of the way they look, why shouldn't they?
I have absolutely no idea, and I don't know why we're so concerned about it. I'm a very, very pro-feminist person. As a man.
Not after this call, you won't be.
We'll see about that, yes, yeah. Carry on.
I mean, some people make their living writing.
I respect the equality of females in society.
What you're obviously saying is we shouldn't be so po-faced about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we tend to take ourselves as a nation.
Let's face it, Miss UK is bound to be more adventurous and more entertaining than the National Lottery, isn't it?
Absolutely. The turn is very nice.
Depends whether one wins or not.
Anyway, thank you very much indeed for that, Nick. Roger is in Belfast. Roger, you're into beauty contests too?
Yes. Well, not so much a view about beauty contests, but there was a sort of opposition suggested between the International Women's Conference in Beijing and the beauty contest. I would much rather be in Beijing, for the simple reason that, having been in Beijing, I know that you stand in straight in the middle of Beijing, you're passed by hordes, literally hordes of beautiful girls, far more beautiful than you would ever see anywhere else.
Really?
Yes.
So if we were to have Miss UK transferred over to Beijing and hold it there, that might be an ideal for you.
Well, the beautiful ones probably wouldn't bother going in for a contest because they don't really see themselves as beautiful. They don't fancy themselves. They don't preen themselves. They don't make themselves up.
Can I interrupt? Because you're actually...
I think you should.
Because you're saying that if you're brainy, you shouldn't want to go in for Miss UK, which also infers, you know, that a woman's beauty is something, you know, if she's smart, she doesn't want to show off, which I find actually a rather prejudiced point of view. You know, a woman is entitled to choose what she wants to do with her looks.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that was the whole point of feminism.
Do you think, I wonder if any women would like to ring and make a comment on this. Do women enjoy watching women beauty contests? I mean, I know men enjoy watching male beauty contests.
Actually, James, there is a sense of hypocrisy, because if you look at women's magazines do not have photos of men, they have photos of women, because women love looking at other women. And again, when it's a competitive arena, and I think it's the competitive element, I think women don't like the idea of other women sort of using it as a tool, as a weapon. OK, 0345 779911. Give us a call on your views or that or anything else. And David is in Exeter, and David is bald. Well done, David. Sorry.
David.
Hello, James.
Ignore her giggle and...
please, I'm not used to seeing you so early in the morning. I'm used to see you late
Right, OK, David, but on to baldness, David, the topic in hand. David?
Hello, I'm sorry, I saw the weather report, that was all.
Oh, right, David. Well, it's not raining here. I don't know what it's doing in Exeter.
It's Michael Fish again, isn't it?
Carry on, James.
No, you're bald.
Yes.
Do you want me to do this whole thing for you? Do you want me to answer your question as well as talk to you about it? You've lived life to the full since you were 18.
Yes.
And you've not been an underachiever.
Oh, my gosh, no.
Good, thank you very much indeed, David. On to Daniel, who is in Letchworth. And Daniel, you are also bald.
No, I'm not bald.
You're not bald?
No, I'm only 16. I just want to say that I don't agree with the statement that bald men are underachievers, because I had a scout leader and he was bald and he's been in the scouts for 32 years and he's done so much for the community, the church and scouts, and if anything, he's an overachiever, not an underachiever.
OK, well, there we are.
He could be compensating, you see, for
you mean being a member of the Scouts for 30 years? Is that
compensation? No, it's not really is.
OK, Daniel, good, thank you. Mary is in Nottingham. Hello, Mary.
Hello.
And bald men, yes, Mary?
Well, I love bald men.
Good.
Yes, I fell madly in love with a bald man when I was quite young. I do think it's important bald heads should be brown.
Yes, I agree with you.
I don't like white bald heads. You'll have to get a bit of fake, a little bit more on that. But I married a younger man some years ago who didn't have hair, had hair at the time. He's now lost it, so sort of we've almost caught up. So I should be quite glad and think, oh gosh, yes, he looks older now. But he looks wonderful. I mean, I only look at his eyes and all the rest of him.
Quite right, Mary. There are other parts to look at. Do you think that bald men really are upset? I know but I went bald or started to go bald at 18.
When I met him 13 years ago, yeah.
Why do they worry so much? Why do people worry?
It's a Samson complex, isn't it? I mean, you could use that sort of term.
Yes, but you see, it depends who they live with, because I keep telling him how beautiful he is and whatever, you see, and how I find the bald heads attractive. And I do have a model agency, and I was saying that, a lot of our young men, they shave their heads.
They do.
They do.
They're
not all swimmers.
They wish to try and achieve the state some of us have been naturally blessed with.
They have the choice.
There's nothing wrong with bald men at all. I think they're sexy. I think they concentrate harder on being a success.
Sorry, Mary, can I ask you, is it true? Are bald men more virile?
Absolutely. Oh, of course. They have to try harder. Well, but I find they try harder, yes.
That's take your word for it. I think that's...
Yes, I mean, if you try...
We won't go into detail.
The hat on it.
If you try harder, that's it, isn't it, really? Right, thank you very much indeed, Mary. Let's talk to Daniel, who is in Chadwell. And, yes, Daniel.
Hello, yeah, I'm phoning in regards to the flippant comment made by the lady there who compared beauty contests with the Beijing conference and made the comment about feminism. Well, if she knows anything about the subject in Beijing, it is not like burn the bra feminism. It's about a situation where almost two-thirds of the world, where the women population, they are suffering such oppression that it really is much more, and it's so flippant that with their way that stuff is written off.
Sorry, I don't think I mentioned bra burning.
No, you actually were saying if you were making fun of that, you'd rather watch the beauty contest.
Yes, because
but then I think in Britain we understand the word feminism in maybe Germaine Greer sort of era. But we're talking about over in Africa, virtually 80% of the workforce is of women.
So what are you saying?
In China, it's forced abortions. In India, little girls have been killed at birth.
Yes.
And I find the way you...
Yes, but sorry, yours is a separate issue. You're talking about the problems that women all over the world face. Miss UK is a completely different matter. I compared the two in terms that they're happening both at the same time, not that they are similar events.
No, but the thing is,
similar integrity. I did not say that.
But I actually can't understand how you can turn around and not recognise that what's going on in Beijing is important.
I don't think I said that I wasn't recognising it.
I don't think you said it wasn't important either, no. I think you just said you'd rather, if you have the choice, be at Miss UK today and maybe at Beijing tomorrow. Anyway, thank you for your point. 0345 77 9911 is the number to call us. Let's squeeze in another call maybe just before we go to the news. Nick is in London. Nick, hello.
Hi, James.
Hi.
Just a change of conversation.
Okay.
I read with scorn this morning in the newspaper that the Oxford University Press were publishing a politically correct version of the New Testament. I'd just be interested to see what your views were on this, because I find nowadays we've become such a nation so sensitive and pandering to sort of very sensitive people's needs just for the sake of being politically correct. Yeah. So I think it's a part of history that should surely now be just accepted as past.
Can we ask you to sort of hang on and join us after the news, actually, because I think this is quite interesting, and some of the suggestions for this politically correct Bible are quite ridiculous. So will you do that?
Sure.
Okay. And if you'd like to join in on this discussion, then why not give us a ring now and talk about 0345 77 9911. The lines are open. We're waiting for your calls. See you after the news.
Do you agree or disagree with what you've heard so far? What points haven't been made? Or do you think we're missing the main story of the day? Whatever you want to talk about, ring us now on 0345 77 9911. It's only the cost of a local call. The Talk About number again, 0345 77 9911.
Welcome back to Talk About. 0345 77 9911 is the number to call us on. Anvar Khan is my special guest today, and we're talking to Nick. Nick, we're talking to you about the new Revised Bible. I found a bit in the Telegraph about it just during the news. Can I read one bit and then we'll go on to discuss? Luke 9:58. It reads, "The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." In the new version, it will read, "The human one has nowhere to lie down and sleep." What?
Pathetic. I mean, all I'm saying is that I think that, you know, I mean, I'm not a great fan of change, especially in this sort of circumstances, but I just feel that, as I say, in 20 years' time, we'll be trying to change it back again. I think it is history, as I said earlier, and it should be left as that. And people should just accept it and get on with more important things.
Exactly. I don't understand, and Anvar, you'll, I'm sure, disagree with me, but I don't
understand why people need to revise history and try to get it to some sort of non-offensive parlance.
But I don't understand why people want men and women to be equal.
Well,
I mean, we're never going to be equal.
The ludicrous, the stupid thing is, if you could change all the language in the world and you could never offend anybody, but it doesn't guarantee that equal rights will follow. There's, you know, it's a futile exercise.
This will actually, Nick, turn the Bible into a laughing stock, won't it?
Exactly. I mean, as I say, it is hysterical, and it. You know, I mean, the fact that the human one, and I've got here, it says the word Lord is deemed to have connotations of male chauvinism, exploitation, and colonialism. And it is pathetic. And that's basically what I've got to say. And I'd just be interested in what other people's views were.
Thanks for your call. Okay. Right, 0345 779911. Call us about the new revised version, the politically correct Bible. Let's talk now to Serbian. Is that right? Serbian. Michael Serbian.
Hello?
Hi. Michael, you're on the air. You are a Serb, is that right?
That's right, yeah. The name's actually Michael Serbianin. Well, I'm phoning about this latest actions in Bosnia. First, I'd like to say that I don't actually condone what's happening in the former Yugoslavia. And as I've got relatives there, I am very concerned about what's going on.
Yeah.
However, I feel that the NATO bombings are not justified because I feel that an ultimatum should have been given first so that all sides could have removed their heavy weapons from the exclusion zones, because not just the Serbs who have heavy weapons in those areas.
Do you think we should be in there at all?
I think we've jumped in a bit too deep now. And
why didn't we do this 3 or 4 years ago? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, why on earth didn't we do this?
I find it strange now that the United Nations and NATO have now openly joined in one side in the civil war, and I think they're doing too much too late now, because they're alienating one side and giving hope to the other, you see.
Can the Bosnians and the Serbs and the Croats ever live together? I don't think they can.
Neither do I. I think what's going to happen now is it's like oil on water, and they've all got to go to their own separate areas, and they should be forced, all of them should be forced back to the peace cycle, but not by bombing one side only, because it gives hope to the Muslims and it alienates the Serbs.
I can't understand that either.
The United Nations should be more even-handed, because I've seen all three sides have qualified for reprisals under the United Nations resolutions, but it's only the Serbs that get bombed. In Crimea, the Croats killed United Nations peacekeepers and put them in front of tanks and things, and nothing happens to them. The Muslims attack United Nations peacekeepers, steal equipment and that sort of thing.
I mean, they do say, the uncharitable people amongst us would say that a war like this is actually good for the economic stability of certain countries who make a lot of weapons and stuff.
Well, that's what I like to... What happened about the sanctions and the embargoes? I mean, where did all these weapons come in to help Croatia kick all the Croatian Serbs out? I mean, I had relatives over there. I don't know where they are now. Nothing happened to help them, and I find it a pity that the United Nations doesn't show more resolve on this conflict and on others. But all I see now is
Michael,
the Serbs all the time.
Yeah, the thing is, Michael, should we police situations like this? I mean, if the UN is ever going to be the international policeman it's supposed to be, how do you do it? You certainly don't do it the way they seem to have been trying to do it.
Well, personally, I think this situation got right out of control right at the beginning, with recognition of independent countries. I mean, the disintegration of Yugoslavia was totally the fault of the world, well, apart from the individual states, United Nations, and Germany, and USA, recognising individual portions of it. Imagine if that happened to England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales were...
What do you think, Anvar?
It wouldn't happen in Britain. It wouldn't happen in Britain because there are not factions. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say it wouldn't happen in Britain.
Then you thought better of it.
Yeah, I thought better of it.
Thinking of a Rangers match.
There you go. You think you've got an intelligent point of view and it runs away with you.
Michael, it's an interesting point. We'll see if other viewers want to carry that on. Let's move to Steve, who is in Bristol. Steve, hello.
Hello, James.
Steve, yes, you want to talk about child crime?
Yes, if I may.
Yep.
Well, basically, I don't think people have got, especially children, have got enough positive role models in life. I mean, basically, I believe that they're looking at criminals out on the street, say they're living on housing estates. They look at criminals on the street, they got flash cars, flash suits, women, money, and kids growing up saying, well, I want to be exactly like them, I want this and I want that. And basically, you just go out and take it.
Or on the other hand, I suppose they've got the Power Rangers.
Well, I think that is a huge sweeping statement. I mean, you know, what role models do children have? They have, you know, Neighbours, Kylie Minogue, Macaulay Culkin. I mean, these
Kylie has not been in Neighbours now for about 3 years.
Well, she sprang from Neighbours, did she not? She has an affinity with the programme. I mean, it's all very clean and wholesome.
Are our role models only on television? Surely, I mean, what Steve's saying is we should have more positive role models in the community, in society.
We can't install them, and we can't install versions of Macaulay Culkin in a terrible look to make sure that nothing ever happens. I mean, positive role models, you know, are going to be whatever that child deems to be important, which is good behaviour, sense of morality, etc. You can't legislate for these things.
I mean, what do you think, Steve, though? OK, say we do need some more positive role models, but how do you deal with a young criminal, maybe under 10, apparently a lot of break-ins, a lot of crime is committed by kids under 10 years old. How do you deal with them?
Well, basically, you give them an option. I mean, you can say to them, right, this is how you're going to live your life, right, and show them exactly, if they choose to live their life this way, you show them exactly what will happen if they do live this life this way. You take them to jails, you introduce the prisoners that actually live their life this way and that have had 20, 30 years taken off their lives, I mean, spent in jails, coming in and out of jails all the time, and show them exactly what will happen if they carry on this way.
Sorry, yeah.
And then show them the alternative.
That's interesting because they're showing the consequences.
Yeah. Steve, that's good. Thank you for that. Let me move to Jane quickly because Jane in Birmingham wants to talk about the same topic. Now, you have a different idea on this, don't you?
Hello?
Hello, Jane, yeah.
Oh, good morning.
Hi.
Yes, please. Just briefly, to put you quickly in the picture, I've been teaching for 30 years now, and I teach in an area where we have a great many children in our school with behavioural problems and difficulties of many different sorts. Now, we are getting now more and more disturbed and difficult children into our schools. With the closing of special schools, many special schools, and children being put back into ordinary schools, which in itself is a good thing, there is not the support in the classroom, the qualified support that teachers really need.
Are you going to blame this all on money? Are you going to say that because they're
No, I haven't finished yet.
No, go on.
No, not at all.
Okay.
A lot of it is money and trying to save money because these children actually, many of these children shouldn't be in ordinary schools because they need a different kind of education. They need lots of other different sorts of help, which we actually don't have the money to provide, but that's not the point.
Right.
The behaviour problems now are filtering down. The children who once would have been in residential special schools are now going to day special schools.
Are you saying, though, that children are not able to make the distinction between right and wrong?
No, I am saying that unless they are trained and they have good role models, they're not able to distinguish between right and wrong. They do what they think.
Right. Who should be the role models? Is it obviously the parents, but should there be the teachers falling down on this particular job?
Yes. No, I don't think the teachers are falling down, and I'm getting very heartily sick of teachers who are at the sharp end doing a really difficult job under difficult circumstances are always being put down when people don't actually really know what goes on in schools.
Well, apparently teachers are having more time off through sickness now than the pupils.
Well, it's hardly surprising, really, when you really know what some of us have to put up with. Yeah. But can I just make the point here that the idea of helping children, putting children back into the normal classroom and providing help is sitting them with somebody's mum who may be a very, very nice person but isn't a qualified teacher, and that person actually has to be paid for by the school.
So what you're really on here, I'm trying to work out what it is you want, Jane, but you really want more money for everything, don't you? Yeah.
I think we need more special units. We need more facilities to help these children who are coming in more and more.
Yeah, but you know, before all this happened years ago, people would argue that kids were better behaved.
Well, they were better behaved.
So why?
I really don't know, but I think teachers are being asked to solve some of the problems that are endemic in society.
Okay.
And we're not actually being given the tools to do the job. And I would like to make a plea for children. You see, a lot of our work also is counselling families. We spend a great deal of time after school, in times which are supposed to be for preparation, whatever, counselling families and talking to parents in distress who can't manage their children.
Yeah.
And you'll find
so, Jane, you're telling me what the problems are. What you're not telling me is what you think the solution is, apart from more money.
Well, I do think that we do need to put more money into special.
Okay, we got to. Thank you, Jane, very much indeed. Let's see if you have a view on this. Give us a call now, 0345 77 9911. It's still not too late to get on if you've got something you think should be said that so far hasn't been. Let's now go to Adam in Manchester, and Adam wants to talk about postnatal depression. Yes, Adam.
I think there should be a lot more help for women who go through postnatal depression. The guy who spoke from Wigan saying that the woman should have got more than 2 years probation is totally out of order because he doesn't understand what postnatal depression is.
And you do?
My partner's been through it twice.
And what should be done?
There should be more education. GPs should be educated.
Do you think it's actually the GPs that don't recognise it?
GPs are very ignorant of it. And I'm sorry to say, they need a lot more training on postnatal depression.
Well, sorry, I mean, back to this again. We need, you know, we need more money, we need more education, we need this, that, and everything. And all the time, the blame finally goes back to the government, where it always does.
I don't think you can blame the government because
what people's sense of responsibility, personal responsibility, is that at a premium nowadays? Is that what you're saying?
No, because GPs actually have attached to most of the surgeries health visitors and CPNs.
So at least what we're saying is...
They should actually listen to what the CPNs are
Right,
saying.
what you're saying, though, is people should be more aware of these things. You've come on the TV, you've said it.
Should be more aware of it.
Good. Adam, thank you very much indeed.
Very ignorant.
Thank you. Leon, I think, is that Leon? I can't see from here. In Hastings, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd just like to make a comment on changing the Bible, really.
Go on, then.
It just goes to show the mentality of the people that are running our country. I think it's a disgrace that they should even think about.
I don't actually think... I'm sorry about this, Lena. I know you'd like to get in a political point here, but I don't actually think it's got anything to do with the people who are running the country at all. But nice try anyway. Thank you for that. Let's talk to Samantha. And Samantha's in London. Hello, Samantha.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Good
Your
afternoon.
point, please.
Well, I would like to make a point about bald men. I mean, I don't know what the fuss is all about. My boyfriend, Dimitri...
Oh, Dimitri. Well-known bald person, yes.
He's balding, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because he compensates everywhere else.
I'm sure he does.
He's got a hairy back, he's got hairy ears, and I think that's lovely. You know, I find cute, cuddly ears lovely.
Anvar, you're the one who disagreed, so please.
I'm so glad she's happy. You know, I'm glad. I like women coming in and phoning in about how sexy their man is. You find that actually bald men do have a lot of body hair. James.
I thought you told me, now hang on, just before we go, you told me you didn't know any bald men.
Sorry,
you told me you didn't know any bald men.
I don't know.
No, you see?
That's the point.
You mustn't try.
How did I know that? I'm going to have to think back here.
Know.
But I do agree with you. I mean, I have been to resorts. I have seen bald men parading around in their little trunks, and they do have a lot of body.
Samantha, thank you for that. Let's squeeze in Victoria from Haywards Heath if we can. Yes, Victoria?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'd like to say I think bald men are very attractive myself because my father is. He's very successful and he's not stupid. And then I'd like to transfer across to the question of about sort of Miss UK air stewardessing, because I used to be an air stewardess. As soon as you said that, then suddenly you're dense. So what you're supposed to be? Sort of bold and thick, or beautiful and no brains. So
exactly.
Why is it that people have why can't you be attractive and intelligent, male or female?
Well, James, I mean, you're
you and
an
I,
example.
obviously, yes.
I mean, it goes without saying.
Yeah, I don't know. What you know?
I mean, the way I think about it, I think the people who write down these minor things, put it in the paper, think, let's make some comments.
Victoria, I agree with you.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Anvar, thank you very much indeed. We'll be back on Monday morning, but until then, have a nice weekend from both of us. Goodbye.